external mic and you're in a secluded area that doesn't have a lot of,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't have background noise and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
and that's good. Yeah, it definitely, as long as it's stable, it definitely sounds better than calling in over the phone too.
Right. And so we are live right now, Vince. Thank you very much for that. And so now, thank you, everybody. Uh, so this is Faith in Home Buying. We're going to do it a little different today. It's going to be more on a Zoom, but you guys have met my guest, Audrey Hutton, before. Audrey, say hello. You got to probably.
Hello, everybody. Yes, so nice to be here.
Right, of the Hutton Mortgage Team. And she's going to be talking a little bit today about just the COVID-19 situation from a lender standpoint. We are also working a deal together, and right in the midst of this, we're hit with we were hit with some interesting obstacles that we had to navigate. But uh, we got so big, big class. Health. I kind of like to start this because, it is faith in home buying, right? Like normally I started with the activation, but I just want to start it with, I know there's a lot of people wondering, how the heck am I going to pay my mortgage? I've been wanting to buy a house. 2020 was my year. What's going to go on, right? And I figured I was going to do 2 Timothy 1:7, talking about comfort, right? For God has not given me the spirit of fear, but a one of power, love, and of a sound mind. However, I think today I had my midweek kind of virtual meetup, and they had mentioned the verse Isaiah 40, 28 through 31. And I think that's probably a good one to talk about with regards to feeling just like a verse of comfort, right? And so I think that would be a great place to start today for those that are really kind of can't go out, can't really go outside and do the things that you want, play the way that you want to play. Kids there, they've been there for almost 2 weeks now, not going to school, but just needing strength in this time, right? And I kind of like the message version on this, and so bear with me as I read the verse. So it says, actually starting at 27. And again, this is the message version for Isaiah 40, 28 through 31. Why would you ever complain, O Jacob? Or whine, Israel, saying, God has lost track of me. He doesn't care what happens to me. And don't you know anything? Haven't you been listening? God doesn't come and go. God lasts. He's creator of all, and you can see or imagine. He's creator of all you can see or imagine. He doesn't get tired out, doesn't pause to catch his breath, and he knows everything inside and out. He energizes those who get tired, gives fresh strength to dropouts. For even young people tire and drop out. Young folk in their prime stumble and fall, but those who wait upon God get fresh strength. They spread their wings and soar like eagles. They run and don't get tired. They walk and don't lag behind. And I thought, like, this particular verse is so fitting to what we're going in right now because it can get tiring, especially thinking about everything that's going on, and especially, shoot, what we talked about, even with our own clients, being in a deal and not even knowing what's going to happen, the stress on that, the stress in your family, whether or not you're selling your home, whether or not the buyer can even satisfy the loan and actually purchase your house because you're in contract on another one. So there's so much stress going around. But in this verse, the part where it says they spread their wings and soar like eagles, I wanted to kind of focus in on that for a second. And I took some notes about an eagle, right? The eagles, they're some of the most grandiose creatures in the air, and been around for a long time. And there's a reason why God just kind of said, like eagles, why the verse talked about being like an eagle. And here's some things that I kind of wrote down that I thought were pretty cool with regards to an eagle, just to remember that, the things that we do, if we can be like eagles in times of needing comfort, we'll get far. Okay, so the first one with the analogy of an eagle is that they soar without actually flapping their wings. I didn't know that. I did not know because they're so big in stature and their wings are so long. If they were to, flap their wings continuously, they'd actually die. And the reason why they'd actually die is because it's so much energy that it would take in order to stay in the air. So what do? They soar. And so that's why usually when you see pictures of eagles, and think about it, like the majestic pictures of eagles, they're rarely flapping, but they're always soaring in the sky and soaring in the clouds. And I liken that and I say, okay, God, well, even in our own lives, right? The soaring and saying, we're not trying to do it by our own strength. Right? We're saying, okay, Holy Spirit, I can't handle this right now, nor if I do, it'll probably kill me in a lot of ways. But I need you to be the wind beneath my wings, and so that I can fly. And that's how amazing, because they're born with big and heavy wings. A lot of us, hey, we're born with big and heavy obstacles in life that we can't really navigate, especially if we try to do it on our own, especially the cards that we were dealt in life, right? But it's a survival mechanism that they learn at a young age, which, hopefully we do too in life, to learn that we don't have to do it on our own, because we have to conserve energy, right? In life, in our families, we conserve energy. So soaring like the wings of eagles is one of the things that we should remember to do. Another thing, there are a thing called wind thermals that come up, and this is what they learn to soar on, right? So instead of flapping their wings, they literally wait. They stay perched and they wait until they get a wind thermal that comes that's able to take them so that they can soar. What? How awesome is that? Like they can remain perched for days. No joke. They remain perched for days until a wind thermal comes and takes them so they can fly them to wherever they need to go. And granted, it's when they have a strong thermal wind, they get to finally, get food or wherever it may be, but they will stay there. And if they don't wait for the wind thermal, they can actually starve. So the biggest thing is being able to trust the fact. Okay, trust the fact that even as a person going through life, that, God, I'm not going to move until you say it. I'm not going to move until I know that you're there in order to guide and direct me and to go upon this path. I'm going to wait until I hear your word so I don't have to do it in my own strength, right? I'm going through situations. If God says go, go, but have wisdom in waiting for the different moves. You have to be wise when you go and you do things, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this today. Just to say, hey, look, it doesn't mean that everything comes to a halt. It's just, okay, now we need a little bit more wisdom and we need more of the Holy Spirit in order to continue to guide and direct us, right? So again, wind thermals, which is amazing. I didn't even know this, right? But another thing that I had wrote down with the wings of eagles, right, is that they're master flyers. How amazing is that? They're master flyers. And so because they're master flyers, us as well being master flyers, move, because I know that I can't handle it on my own. And I know that, without you, I'm going to be a wreck, right? And then the last thing in closing, hold on, let me find my notes. The last thing in closing is that they have two sets of eyes. Did you know this, right? They have two sets of eyes. So the first set is their natural eye, which they have when they're in resting mode. And when they start to take flight on strong wind thermals, they have a second eye that comes on them. And this eye enables them to fly on these strong wind thermals without damaging their original eyes. How awesome is that? And of course, that will preach, right? Being like an eagle, having two sets of eyes. God, I see what you're doing in the physical, but what are you also doing in the spiritual? What are you doing in other ways that I can't see? Wow, how awesome is that? So in Isaiah 40:28 through 31, God's telling us to be like eagles. So even in this time, understand that, hey, you can soar. And you really can. If you try to do it in your own strength, if you try to look to see what's happening in the world, guess what? You're probably going to get tired. And it's not designed for you to do that. And it's designed for you to wait until you hear and you can feel the flow of the Holy Spirit going so that you can navigate this not only with wisdom, but with confidence, knowing that, God's still got my back. He's still in control no matter what's going on, right? And so amen to that. And so when we come back, we're going to talk even more with Audrey Hutton, and hopefully that is giving you a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of help during this time. But we're going to give you some practical insight in a little bit, talking about COVID-19 and the exact ways on how to walk this thing out in this season, because it's brand new for a lot of people. Most people in this market have not been through this, but we're going to do it. And so stand by, stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Okay, so going into the second one, Vince, you don't need to say anything because you just need to text me. So Audrey, so we're coming in on the second part, and we're going to talk a little bit about, just our topics and going. So you ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally ready. I'm really impressed with the whole eagle analogy. I absolutely loved it. You got me thinking.
Yeah, no, but there's so much more with that too. It's just amazing to know that, even the things that, even the second set of eyes, I had no clue about that, right? But what's up, Bally? How you doing? So if you have any questions, anyone, with regards to us talking, it's a great time, because then we'll be able to answer them right away. And if we can't get to them right away, believe me, afterwards, don't worry about it. We'll get the answers to your questions. Some people have already been calling me and asking, and answering questions and getting you to the right sources of information, so you don't have to be scared, so that you can be informed in navigating this, right? All right, so we're going to go on to our second part of here, and now I do need Vince, if you can text me, let me know how much time do I have on the second part. I think it's about 10 minutes 40, if I'm not mistaken. And so, guys, what we're doing is we're actually recording live today. We're going to be on air on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. So, new way to do it. Bear with me, but we're going to be making sure that the word just gets out by hook or crook. All right, so 11 minutes. All right, so 11 minutes. All right, so, and here we go. Yep, a little longer. All right, so we're back. All right, Audrey. So we are back, and I needed to bring you back on. You were on before. Thank you so much. It was great insight and information. But even now, in talking about even our current deal that we have going on, there was things that happened that we needed to adjust. And I know we're not the only ones that had to do with it, as far as a real estate agent and a lender, transaction had to go through. And so right now, what's happening right now in the world of mortgage? Things seems like they're being flipped upside down. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And I commend you for being on the forefront of it, because what's really interesting is we're all completely baffled in the industry, to be honest with you. This is something that the media hasn't even gotten a hold of. I mean, they're supposed to be running current stories and what people should be looking out for, and all they're really focusing on is COVID, and the interest rates are super low.
Right.
That's all that you hear. So what's really happening on the back end, everybody, is that there's complete disruption in the mortgage industry, and it's really trickling down to the effect of everybody's employment, all the way down to what people can do and function on a daily basis. So what we're seeing is that people are under the impression that, hey, I'm hearing rates are super low in the industry, everything's great. And it's quite the opposite. What's happening is that people are not reinvesting in mortgage-backed securities. And so when the stocks plummeted, that also had a huge effect on rates. It had a huge effect on the investors and the lenders. And because of what's happening with COVID, there's many people that are not making their mortgage payments. There's people that are going on unemployment already. And so what that means is that you have lenders and investors that are highly over leveraged, if any of them actually service their own loans. And a lot of these lenders that would do less than 20% down, or the big loan amounts, anything like that, they're actually going out of business. I mean, there's a prediction right now that about 90% of jumbo lenders are going to be out of business within potentially a 90-day window.
Wow.
So we've already seen the rollout of this. Absolutely. And Tamika and I, obviously, we were kind of on the forefront of that, because we have transactions going on there right now. There's a lot of realtors or lenders that maybe don't have deals going on right now, but part of it's the volume of the business that if you have deals going on, you're going to feel it.
Right.
So, essentially, even big name lenders have made announcements that they're no longer doing cash out loans. They're no longer doing anything less than 20% down. All the bond loans completely paused, suspended. That means anybody that was getting home buyer assistance, anybody that was looking to do any kind of unique financing, all of those literally went away overnight, all of those programs. So again, that's the direct impact that we're seeing right now, and it's changing minute by minute, hour by hour. We've had multiple conference calls, and literally even within the last hour before I jumped on here, I got 10 more names of investors that cannot fund.
Wow. Wow. So it is, so it's serious. I mean, we don't see it as the consumer, or most of the general public has no clue. Even a lot of realtors don't either. Maybe they just don't try to find out. But that's real.
Yeah.
It's really real. 0% making it look one way. Okay, everything's fine, but no, it's not. There are some deals that will be affected, and that's one of the reasons why we are doing this today. So in that, the deal, for instance, that we had going on, that was currently in process. What are some of the things that people, as far as in the lending standpoint, even in Realtor Rise, I can kind of touch on that, but what are we seeing with regards to deals that were actually still in motion when all of this stuff is happening?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the pros and cons. So there are some people that are really, really lucky that actually had a locked rate, because there are some investors that they're having a cutoff date.
Yep.
There are also some investors that are saying, sorry, we ran out of funds. So even if you are in process, we can't fund. So I would say, the pros are that a lot of people that are in contract right now, even if they might have an effect on their employment because of COVID later, at least they're getting that refi done or that house purchase before they're getting any news from the company. So that's where we're kind of encouraging everybody that housing, everybody needs a home. Everybody needs 4 walls and a roof over their head.
Right.
And so if anybody feels like their employment could be compromised, what you're kind of looking at potentially, right? We'll focus on a lot of positive things will come out of this as well, but this is to prep people. People need to be actually aware of what's going on so that they don't get caught behind. What we're seeing is back in 2008, for example, this is 2008 on hyperspeed.
Right.
2008, everybody saw the market was crashing, everything was impacted, but it took years, right? This is like things are happening minute by minute. So people need to be prepped that if you're going to rent anyways in this type of market, if this does affect the housing market, the first home that people let go is their investment properties, which means landlords are being renters or selling their properties. So if you're not buying anything right now, be prepared to move a couple times over the next, year, potentially, right? These are the impacts. So if you can get into a house, don't wait, right? You're going to be paying rent anyways. See what you can do before you hear the impacts of it. So that way you can have some stability of that. So that's something that people think about. Should I wait? Should I not? Do it while you can, while you still can verify employment. Because investors are actually changing their guidelines. Again, updating it minute by minute.
Right.
Getting more restrictive and verifying employment even after funding the loan. So that's something to really note, is that if you do feel like your employment is going to be impacted, let your loan officer know sooner than later, and prep your HR company, right? If you have a friend in management, if you have any contacts,
now is not the time to have enemies in HR.
Seriously, send them flowers, do whatever you need to do, and let them know, hey, I'm in the middle of buying a house. I'm going to have a lender calling to verify that I'll still work here. Make sure that they're prepped for that. And if they give the correct information and that you're still employed, that you're not being, put temporarily on leave just because of COVID, make sure, because you have one shot at that. If the underwriter calls and verifies and they say, oh no, they're on temporary leave, that could literally impact your purchase or your refi. So,
right. And so that's just kind of
one of the many areas.
Right. One of the many areas. No, I appreciate that. And so what we're going to get into, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about what's happening in the mortgage world. Obviously, things are going a little bit haywire. But like, for instance, in the current deal that we have, just so people can get a real life understanding that this can actually happen to you. Give an example, of course, without, talking about the names, but give an example of what just happened to us.
and I can use bank names as well
Yes.
because they've actually publicized
Yep.
this. So I'll give an example. With these types of clients and in our situation as well, the investor literally suspended funds. So you have an investor that says, sorry, I know you're in contract, but we literally do not have enough money to fund this loan.
Right.
And if we kind of look at the back reason, it's because nobody's reinvesting. They're completely leveraged. They have all their monies out. And so they literally don't have anything to complete that with. So they have no choice but to pull back, just to retain, not having to go bankrupt, right? They need to leverage everything that they can. Some big names that have been announced is like Wells Fargo. They announced just yesterday that they're not doing any cash out or anything less than 20% down. So it's mainly the jumbo loans that are affected. So I'll kind of point that out. So what happened in our transaction and how we can get around it and what people need to look for is if you're getting pre-approved or if you're about to go into contract, because you have companies that need to try to fund loans, but you might not find out if they don't have funds until it's too late. They're not going to say anything, right?
Right.
So just make sure that there's alternate options available. I would not put all of your eggs in one basket for lenders that just have a few products available. So that's one of the strategic choices that I made years ago. I started out on the banking side, and when they cut programs, you have no options. So, we have aligned ourselves in a position to where, as many other lenders can. So just check with your lender and make sure that they have the ability to be seamless and change from one investor to the other.
Right.
And so that way you can actually complete your purchase like how we were able to.
Right.
To calmly update everybody, just let everybody know what's going on. Nobody has control over COVID. Nobody has control over a bank's P&L, but you can react to it. You can take care of your clients. And
Exactly.
so in our situations, that's what we did. We guided him properly. So anybody that's looking to buy, make sure that your lender has multiple investors that can seamlessly provide options and come up with backup plans so that you're not just left hanging and starting the process all over again.
Exactly, because and with that, also to remember there's contingencies, and contingencies are ways out. And we were, a little bit also too extended on our contingency period, and that was the one thing. If we did not have a way to get out of it, we wouldn't have been able to remove that contingency, and nor did the seller really want to put the home back on the market in this type of climate. They really didn't. So thankfully they were
Right.
patient with us, but we had showed a lot of communication, and that's just so important. Don't just disappear. You got to have communication. As bad as the news may feel like it is, communication is key, and to make sure that your team has that communication is just highly important. And we were able to remove the contingency because we were able to pivot to a different type of a loan. May not have been his first choice. However, he's still able to get in, get a clear to close on his loan. And now we're still continuing on, still being able to have hopefully close to his close date as well. So that being said, when we come back, we're going to talk about, so what if you wanted to buy in this particular market? What if? And some of the things that you need to look out for. So stay tuned. This is Tamika Ellsworth, Faith in Home Buying with Audrey Hutton. And we are equipping people of faith for the home buying process, and even in this wonderful time, sort of COVID-19. Stay tuned.
Absolutely.
All right. So
Awesome.
going through. All right. So let's see here. What is my next time frame coming on? Next one. All right. So I believe me, when we're done with it.
I'm already getting, so yesterday I got a call from 3 agents. One of them was like, can you come and do a Zoom video for my whole office at our next meeting? Because people aren't hearing back from lenders.
Yep.
Because lenders are freaked out.
Yep.
If they're inexperienced or if they don't know what to do,
Yep.
they're just like, oh shoot, there goes my whole pipeline. And so the communication isn't there. And then people are left with nothing, like no options. They'll have to start all over. So that's happening. That is absolutely real. But I would love to talk about down payment.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are having, like, they lost half their down payment overnight.
Yep.
So options with that.
That's what we're talking about now. And our next one coming up, and we're gonna roll into that. It's about a 10-minute segment. We're gonna talk about that very thing. Thinking of buying? Let's talk about that. Okay. So here we go. Awesome. And we're going into the next segment starting now. All right, everyone. So we're back again. This is Tamika Ellsworth, Faith in Home Buying. Guest Linda Audrey Hutton from the Hutton Mortgage Team is on again with me, and we're in a deal together, and we've been kind of navigating this thing as it's happening. So I thought, what better
Real time.
person? I know, this is real time. What better person to have on with me than her, and just kind of navigating this thing. So let's talk about it. So let's talk about if you're thinking of buying, because I still have it. And I just sent you someone today. I still have people that really do want to capitalize on this market and buying. So if they are thinking about buying, what are some of the things that they should think about and consider?
Absolutely. So I would say looking at the financials of it, right? Because there's kind of the outside factors and then the inside factors when it comes to the finances. So a lot of people are in a position all of a sudden where they knew what money they had. They knew how much they would be able to liquidate, whether it be stocks or mutual funds, anything that's in a fluctuating account that's affected by the stock market. And then they lost 30% of that, and then it rebounded last week. But we're going to see some tumultuous movement. So essentially, people have to prepare. What we're doing right now when we pre-approve people, we're having that conversation up front to say, where is your down payment coming from? And have you talked with your financial planner on what you should do to secure those funds? And it's a personal decision. Everybody knows what risks they're willing to take. There are some people that say, well, I'm going to keep riding this wave. I'll see if my stock recovers fully. Other people say, I want to cash out now and throw that in the bank so I can make sure it doesn't decrease when I'm in contract. So the timing piece is very important. So what we're doing with people is we're showing them what maximum they could qualify for in case there's another 30% reduction. And overall, you guys, I think everybody's, just to put everybody's minds at ease, this is not something permanent. Obviously there are a lot of pros to buying in a down market, so to speak, when everybody is in that panic mode or in that fear mode. A lot of people pull back. So if people can push through and keep your monies together and buy when there's not as much competition, oh my gosh, do it. So that's why we're showing people that you can still buy. There are options, even if you can't put that full 20% down. As I mentioned, most jumbo investors are not allowing anything less than 20% down, but there are options to get around that. And so if you guys have questions on that, reach out to Tamika. She can connect us, but we'll show you what we're doing as far as the strategy. And you have people that were planning on putting 20% down, and because they lost the value, now they feel like there is no option. But again, we can show you that there is options for less than 20% down. And then when the market corrects itself, we can go back to that original product as soon as the banks open up again. It'll happen. It will open up. Nobody just knows the exact date. But, even that being said, I'm pretty confident that we're going to see some rate dips here and there still as this market corrects itself.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Well, see, on the buy side, and then even also too on the real estate side, I still have people that want to buy. And I'm telling you, if this is still something you want to do in 2020, there's a little bit of a workaround around it. Even how you show properties, even how we do virtual tours, because we have a shelter in place, mandate on us right now. But there are still ways that you can, number one, you can set yourself up. So once it's time to go and get running, then we're going to run. Right now what we're seeing is that there is a less amount of homes that are on the market. I think about 40 something percent of homes were pulled as far as withdrawn. And that's a reality too. We already had a low inventory in the first place. However, believe it or not, I was talking to my colleagues. I'm still seeing that people are having multiple offers on their homes. A lot of them are being they are, but a lot of them are being subject to inspection, right? Because sometimes you can't go into it. So you write the offer, great offer, but it's subject to physical inspection. So a lot of times that's what we're seeing too, and that's okay as well. If someone really wants to sell their home and their property, right now you're probably not looking at astronomical prices, but right now you're probably looking at prices that have been very, very leveled out because most people they're really ones that are serious, they want to sell. And we're going to be talking about the selling aspect too in a little bit. But what else as far as a buyer should have even in this time? Say for instance they are off, and you had kind of I think you wrote me an email about this on what to expect or what you should get from your employer with regards to
Mm-hmm.
making sure you actually have work, even though you're not working at an
Yeah.
actual facility. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's really just being really in tune with your HR department and your jobs. There's some people that I've talked with that are kind of enjoying this time, like, hey, perfect, it's a perfect time for me to take vacation because I'm holed up in the house anyways. Don't do that. If anything, if you're looking to buy a house, keep all of your hours normal. Tell your company that you
Right.
can work full time. Show them, even if you're picking up somebody else's job that's on vacation, do whatever you can to keep your hours stable, and get verification ahead of time and prep your employer that they will validate that you're there, you're full time, and your employment is not impacted. Okay, so here's the thing too. Like, this is probably a little bit of a gray area, but I'll give you guys some insight. We always prep our buyers. We don't report anything to the IRS. It's not our job to make sure, that you're there 3 years later. People change jobs all the time.
Right.
So from an employer's standpoint, I really applaud the businesses that help their employees. And so if any, business owners are listening, we worked with some amazing business owners, small and big, that they really have the employees back. And if somebody's trying to buy a house and they're currently employed, let the underwriter know when they call that the likelihood of their employment is to continue. It's rare, but still we're seeing it more and more in this type of situation where the employers feel like they have to say, well, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID, so we can't promise anything. And I just feel like that's absolutely ridiculous because they are currently employed, so why not vouch for your employee?
Right.
So just prep your HR department ahead of time, because it's not like we're, telling the IRS that you promised them that they'd have a job, right? It's just how it is right now. Vouch for them. So I think that that's really important, just making sure that you keep your employment stable. That's probably the number one thing. So from a selling side, is what you're asking is when you're accepting an offer, in that same token, I would accept something that the buyer on that home can show that they are going to have stable employment. So that way you're not accepting an offer and halfway through you find out that they actually got laid off and they can't complete the transaction. So it's stability with both ways, right? The seller wants to know that they're accepting a stable offer, and the buyer wants to know that they have that stability to get the loan so that nothing falls through for both parties.
Exactly. Now we're going to talk about sellers on in our next segment, though. But you bring up a good point with regards to buyers. Like, now is the time to make sure that you're fully aware of your HR department. If they are, hopefully they're answering their phone, and hopefully they're able to give you insight, and information on on numbers to call, because that can hold things up too. If they can't get a hold of your HR department and you maybe need to remove a contingency, whatever the case may be, making sure that, hey, that telephone line, there's someone on the other end of that being able to answer questions, or send in a fax, or send in a scanner on, or a scan sheet on your employment. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
So
if I can mention,
go ahead.
too, I was going to say, just because we're talking about the buyer piece of it, is something to make your offer look stronger, because as you mentioned, we are still seeing multiple offers. It's still competitive. It's the Bay Area.
Right.
It would take a lot more than COVID to really halt the Bay Area with housing, for sure. But, a lot of people, for strategy, say, well, when I'm making my offer, I don't want to show the seller all the funds that I have, because I don't want them to counter me higher.
Nah, be strong.
I
Have
really
strength.
encourage everybody. Yeah, right now, you don't know what the seller's thinking. And as each realtor has other deals that are going on that are affected by this, they're also coaching their sellers to say, hey, we don't want to go with the offer that just goes minimum funds. Because if their stocks fall, if anything falls, that's not a strong offer. So fortunately, realtors like Tamika are super proactive. They know how to strategize that and really show more funds than you have. Just for the down payment. Show them all the stocks you have. Show them the 401k that you have. Show them all the checking savings. If you have a family member that's willing to gift, throw that in there too.
Absolutely.
It shows the stability, even if the stock market falls.
Exactly.
So that way you can just show how strong you are.
No, that's a extremely great point. And I actually practice that anyway, especially over here. It's so darn competitive. Like, I don't want to play all my cards. No. You show your cards and you show how strong you are, just in case anything happens, you can cover it, right? So when we come back, we're going to talk we're going to talk about the seller part, because obviously there's people that still need to buy and there's people that still need to sell. So on our next segment, we'll talk some more about that. And yeah, so stay tuned. Faith and Home Buying.
Love it.
All right, excellent. So I think we have about two more segments. This one's going to be a little bit more of a shorter one. And once Vince texts me that, we're going to end up getting it started. So yeah, we're going to talk about sellers, and then the end, talking about relief, right? Because that's what a lot of people are talking about. Should we refi? Is this going to have an effect if we just had someone, right? Like someone asked about that. Hey, if I refi, is this going to be a problem? If I were to, have forbearance on my loan, is this going to affect me? So let's talk a little bit about that. So give me a second. Let me find out my time. And we'll do that. But I think it's great. On the okay, so 11 minutes. All right. So 11 minutes. And let's talk about our wonderful sellers. Remember, everyone, if you're on it, if you have any questions, it's going live right now. I just like doing the live thing, okay? But like, if you have any questions, please put it down. This is whether you're a buyer thinking that you want to buy, a seller thinking that you want to sell, a homeowner. Maybe you have questions about what we're going to talk about in this segment, the tail end of it. We're going to talk about that, what it means, especially for COVID-19 relief, and coming straight from an actual lender. And how that impacts you. So stay tuned. So we're going to get into our second segment starting about now. All right, everybody. So I'm back here with Audrey Hutton. And just to give a little bit of a recap, I think it was just so important to start off with Isaiah 40, 28:31, just to mount it with like the wings of eagles, to soar. And oh man, the analogy of a eagle's wings and soaring, and being able to not do it in our own strength, but do it in the strength of knowing that, God, you're still in control of this. Yes, stuff is happening, but you're still in control. You're in control of the market. You're in control of wherever I go and wherever I end up. Wherever I want to go, anyways, I'm going to be a light. So continue to guide and direct me, right? But then also, just wanted to actually say that, Audrey, real quick, how can they contact you should they want to have more personal information for a personal situation?
Yeah, you can just go to huttonmortgageteam.com. That's HUTTON, mortgageteam.com. And we're also on all the social medias under Hutton Mortgage Team.
Right. And so I would encourage you on the podcast, if you missed the first part, we did talk a little bit about, what's happening right now in the market. Craziness is happening, but deals are still getting done. They have to. We're Bay Area, it ain't gonna stop, right? But then also, current deals. What are some obstacles that we've been facing? We have some deals that are going on together, and whether they be refi or whether it be a regular sell purchase, there are some obstacles. We talked a little bit about that. We also talked about the thinking of buying, and some of the things that we need to really, some great information on if you're thinking about buying, what are some of the things you need to keep in the back of your mind. But right now we're going to talk about sellers, selling. So obviously we're going to need to learn how to navigate this as far as being a seller, especially this COVID-19. So let's talk a little bit about that. You kind of mentioned it, you touched on the last segment, but let's touch on that again. If you are thinking of selling in this market, what are some of the things that you should watch out for potential buyers?
Yeah, so some of the things that we touched on is I recommend that any listing agent and sellers, that they're looking to compare the offers and see which offer is stronger. Number one thing, it wouldn't hurt to have a conversation with the buyer and the buyer's lender. So we're super proactive. We always reach out to the listing agent to give this information because it makes the buyer look stronger. So from the seller's point of view, I would always ask, if you're not getting this information, do you have confirmation, because of everything that's going on with COVID, that you will be employed through the close of escrow? And it's really important to ask, because even buyers, unless you guys are hearing this right now, how many of you have heard that? Even if you've gone through the pre-approval process, I guarantee you the loan officer hasn't told you to prep that. Call your HR. So the sellers have to protect themselves, and they have to ask that question, because it's kind of protecting yourself. And if you are comparing two offers that look really similar,
Mm-hmm.
and you have one buyer that says, yep, I've already talked to my HR department, everything's totally good, my employer has confirmed that my job is not at risk, I'm going to be maintained employment, just working from home, my salary is the same, everything's good, compared to another offer where they can't get a hold of the lender, you're barely showing any funds to close, and there's no comment about any
Mm-hmm.
type of security of employment.
Right.
That's the professionalism, and I know, Tamika, you prepare your offers, the way that it should be, showing all of the confirmations that would make a seller feel comfortable. And on the flip side, you look out for this for your sellers. So
Mm-hmm.
employment's going to be a big hot topic, especially because investors and lenders are changing their stance when it comes to employment. So prior to COVID, we were able to verify employment, roughly at the time of underwriting, sometimes 3 days, just depending on the loan program.
Right.
And now investors are actually going to verify employment after the funding. So we can go into detail if you want to about why they're doing that and what impact that would have, just on the industry in general. But that's something that you really want to make sure you have solid employment. The second thing is I would make sure that if you're looking as a seller at somebody's bank statements, comparing offers,
Mm-hmm.
if most of their down payment is coming from a 401k or stock and they have
Mm-hmm.
not liquidated that yet,
Mm-hmm.
we're in a very tumultuous market. And over the last 3 weeks, we've seen stocks completely plummet,
Sure
and we have
have.
seen them have a record day of recovery.
Right. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be a lot more movement, and so just make sure that you don't accept an offer that shows the bare minimum of funds to close. Ask the questions as far as, well, it looks like you have enough funds to close with this offer, but if there's a market shift and you lose half of this money, where's your backup for down payment to
Right.
get this through? Or halfway through the transaction, is the borrower going to say, oops, sorry, you heard stock market crashed again, I don't have enough funds to close? So prepping for the what if, really,
Right.
is what it's coming down to. And kind of the same thing, I would say a third thing is really making sure that not only do they have enough funds to show at the offer, but now banks have changed their stance. They are absolutely going to check for updates through the date of funding as far as making sure that people have enough reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas right now it's just at underwriting. So you have to make sure you're covered all the way through the process. So sellers need to look out for that too. Specifically ask the question to protect yourself, so that way, if you ask up front to the buyers to say, what are you going to do to make sure that you have enough funds through the date of closing? If they don't have an answer for that, then that means they're not prepping for what could potentially happen.
Right, exactly. And also too, just
Mm-hmm.
I think on both sides as well. And I've been seeing this even on some of my other deals that are just taking a little bit longer. Thank God we
Mm-hmm.
have some patient sellers out there that understand that this just kind of
Yeah.
crept up on everybody. But patience is huge in this
Yeah.
while we're navigating this. And I say this too because
Yeah.
they're when you come to having appraisers coming out to the property, that's another thing as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? Being able to see that, at least on the buyer side, that there's some um, uh, lending institutions that are actually waiving the appraisal, and I think that's what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loan products, that they're waiving it. So the
Yeah.
drive-by or
Mm-hmm.
desktop appraisals, which is great. I don't know if are they waiving the price too? Having to pay it.
So, yeah, and I can go into detail about that too. So
Yeah,
here's the thing: is that it has to qualify, and the property has to qualify.
yeah.
So with those, there has to be what it's called as a property inspection waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so the government basically says, this is a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guideline, that if there's record of that property in Fannie Mae's system,
Mm-hmm.
and there's enough comps to support the history
Mm-hmm.
of that property, and typically if the buyer's putting 20% down or more, has to be a conforming product,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually get a proper inspection waiver. So what's interesting is we've been kind of playing with the system to see which ones we can get acceptance on and sometimes which ones we can't.
Right.
Sometimes the loan to value has to be 60%, sometimes 25%. So it really is impacted by how much down payment the borrower's putting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's out there. We've gotten a few on purchases. We've gotten
Mm-hmm.
a lot on refinances. And if I'll kind of touch on the appraisal piece of it, because even if you do have to have a full blown appraisal,
Mm-hmm.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have rolled out the new guidelines that they're being extremely sensitive to what's happening, and
Right.
they know that they don't want to put anybody at risk. So if that particular property and the borrower qualifies, they'll send an appraiser out. It might be a drive-by.
Mm-hmm.
If they do have to go in, I've heard from some of my buyers that are refinancing, or my clients that are refinancing, that that appraiser was in and out in like 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it easier
Yeah.
for everybody without compromising the safety, and trying to avoid it if it's possible. If there's enough evidence to support that they don't have to worry about a value issue, they just want to drive by, make sure the property's there, make sure
Mm-hmm.
it's not, you know,
Yeah,
under
dilapidated.
construction or in a
Right.
dilapidated state. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's there, it's standing, they're like, okay, it's good, let's go.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and those are things to think about too, right? Because you have other trades involved with this. And so as a seller and actually really a
Yeah.
buyer too, you have other trades that are involved with it and the safety of everyone in this whole situation. Because again, you got to understand, even agents,
Mm-hmm.
we're considered non-essential, which is kind of interesting. The lending institution, the title companies, even the other the appraisers, they're essential, but the realtor that put the whole darn thing together is not essential. Believe me, we're working on that. But that's a
Yeah.
whole nother topic. That's just, yeah, it's a whole nother topic. But that being said, there's everyone in the mix basically working together to try to make it work for the benefit of the client, both buyer and seller. And so far, I've seen a lot of great
Yeah.
teamwork, and I have to applaud. There's a handful plus of deals that I have going on, and I just have to applaud, even the agents on the other end on us as pulling together and making this work and making it happen for both the buyer and seller,
Absolutely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the sellers, and just thinking about it, like one of the things that I do know, like even putting your home on the market even now. Think about it. They're actually delaying the amount of time that you're able to put the home on the market, or the amount of time. So by the time, I think it was March 18th that started, MLS listings, that more of a Santa Clara kind of, but MLS listings, it paused the amount of days that you had on the market. So if your home was on the market, don't know if you know this, and it paused or you withdrew it, it's going to start. It's not going to start and keep accruing. And so that's one of the things that, again, the MLS is trying to do to make sure that people, who are selling their homes, they're not being docked for this because, they can't control it, right? So that's one of the things. And then you have a lot of virtual staging and virtual ways that you can go about in selling your home. A lot of times you'll see sometimes with offers that come in now that it would be subject to what we talked about, subject to property inspection, or subject to physical inspection of property. So be open to that and know that, hey, these things will come probably to pass. But if you have a serious buyer, work with them, because they're really, really looking to buy, and they're really, really looking to complete the deal, and they're earnest about going forward. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about relief, and then we're just going to wrap it up. So again, Audrey, thank you so much. Hey, my number is 408-561-7922. If you wanted to talk to me a little bit about what you have going on, we'll talk about that in the next segment and wrapping it up. But 408-561-7922. We'll give Audrey's information in a second when we're wrapping up. Stand by. This is Faith in Home Buying. You're speaking with Tamika Ellsworth and Audrey Hutton. All right. Excellent. No, I think that's great. I think in this last segment, let's just talk a little bit about just relief and what that means and what that looks like, and what to look out for if your product is not a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac product. However, what should you do? What if it's a FHA? What if it's a VA? What you need to do, what you need to look out for. Yeah. And so this segment is just about 5 minutes, 15 seconds. 15.
And a big part of it too, you hit the nail on the head with the whole teamwork. It's the way I view this is just set yourself up for success to prepare for either way, because you're going to have economists say, oh, it'll take 2 years to recover from this. Or you have people saying, hey, as soon as this is lifted, we're going to be back and running.
Yep.
So I feel that people do have to, if they're thinking about selling, why wait? Put yourself in the best position. Get it listed now, because if the market does hit a little bit of a downfall, then there goes the purchase price that you wanted, right? On the flip side with buyers, why wait, right? It's like, what if the market doesn't go down, and then you're going to be fighting with everybody else as soon as the market recovers, and then missed out on the less competitive window. So just nobody knows what's going to happen or when. fixing it and get yourself in the best position.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
that's why they're listening right now in order to get themselves in the best position.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. All right. So here we go.
Exactly.
Last segment, about 5 minutes, and then we're going to be done. All right. Ready. And let's start it. All right, so we're back. Tamika Ellsworth, Faith in Home Buying, and talking with Audrey Hutton. And we had some great knowledge and great insight from Audrey before. Everything from, if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, if you have a loan that's in process right now, if you're refining, whatever the case may be. Audrey, lastly,
All of the above.
All of the above. Give them, again, the number to contact you or the information to contact you at, just in case someone has a personal question that they need to have answered from you.
Absolutely. You guys can always reach us 408-426-8755. And if I'm doing something like this to support my amazing agents, then my team is awesome. They're always there to help take your call, get us scheduled for a phone call. And then we're on all the social medias under Hutton Mortgage Team, and then you can find us at huttonmortgageteam.com.
Awesome. So lastly, I want to talk slightly, probably for a minute or so, about relief. What does that mean? What does relief look like in this market?
Yeah, so I would say people need to really focus on what exactly do they need, because we have received a lot of phone calls ever since the announcements were made that foreclosures were going to be put on hold until May. I think right now it's the end of May. So payment, I'm not going to,
right?
Even when they didn't need it.
Yep.
So, that information can be very general. I would say here's the flip side of that on how it can potentially impact you. When the government, again, rolls these announcements out, it is up to the individual lender and investor how they're going to react to that. So true, they might not be able to force place foreclosure. To be honest, it's so rare that they would actually foreclose within that short time frame anyways. So we're already at March 26th. So the amount of relief, I don't know a lender that would enforce foreclosure that quickly, because technically you have to be behind in a couple months payments anyhow. But an important question that we got from our buyer was, how does this impact me if I need to refinance? Let's say if I don't make the mortgage payment on one of my houses and I need to refinance it, I would always be cautious, you guys, because of the current market. Every investor is literally having to stay afloat, right? Every business owner is, that's out there. So these investors might choose that even if they can't force place foreclosure, they might take a stance to say if anybody is behind on payments or has a less than owed balance, that they're not going to refi to them, right? Because even if it doesn't show a late on your actual credit report, the current lender that's looking to refinance can see that you didn't make payments, and that in itself could be a reason to not let a refinance happen, because it shows stress, right? So if you're absolutely under duress and it comes down to feeding your family versus making your mortgage payment, guys, that's the impact of the relief, is that you have a little bit of a break to figure it out. So I would say if you don't have to do it, don't do it, but just know that it could impact a future refinance if those investors choose to take that stance.
No, thank you very much for that. And, again, as with any loan product, yes, they say that from the top, but until it's blanketed across the board, definitely contact your lender if you are a homeowner to find out what exactly they will do, because some are just saying, oh, okay, sure, we'll defer it, but then you're going to have to pay it over the next couple of payments. Some may have that.
You always have to pay it back.
You always got to pay it back somehow. Some will probably not put it to the back of the loan, or they won't pause it. So you have to make sure that you know exactly what your lender will do, specifically if it's not a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac product, because it may surprise you, some of the terms that they have, and it may not be favorable for you, and you may not even want to do it, and actually will probably put you in a worse position actually doing it versus not doing it. So stay in tune. I would say things are changing all the time. We may have a mandate that comes forth that says X, and that's across the board for whatever loan. Don't know. But continue to check in to your lender. And here's a website that I want to focus people on. It's NAR Focus, FOCUS.com. That's NAR FOCUS.com, and that's the National Association of Realtors. They have a great website that talks about different relief and different things that you can do during this time. I kind of talked about it before on some of my podcasts and some of my Facebooks and stuff, but it's a great resource. Go there to find some information directly from the source on all types of issues and items, and they're always constantly updating it with the latest and the most updated information. Thank you all very much, and I hope to bring more information to you. Hang tight, stay stay safe, stay healthy, stay inside. And we'll be speaking again. This is Tamika Ellsworth regards with Faith in Home Buying, equipping people with faith for the home buying process. Thank you so very much, Audrey, for coming on and shedding a little light on some of the areas that people did not know about. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Awesome.
So, thank you so much. And again, everybody, that's Audrey Hutton, Hutton Mortgage Team. And please do contact her. I'll have her information up. Actually, her name is up there. Contact her. She's a wealth of knowledge and information. And even currently, while we have our deal going through, her professionalism and how she's dealt with this and pivoted it has really helped save the deal and help the listing agent still continue on with us and not pull his hair out in a lot of ways. But Audrey, thank you so much. I know you got a whole lot going on today, but thank you, everybody. We're ending now, but do reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye, guys.